Köszönöm szépen. Uh, a tisztelt közönség, dear participants, uh, I would like to uh, speak about the corporate responsibility for future generations. Well, the corporate responsibility for future generations is a key issue today. Companies must recognize that their decisions and actions impact not only the lives of the present, but also those of the future generations. The sustainability and long-term thinking are essential to the way companies operate. Corporate engagement at the local level and global impact are closely linked. Support for local communities, environmental protection, and social responsibility contribute to a more livable future. At the same time, the company's actions have a global impact, whether on climate change, natural resource use, or labor policies. Considering the interest of the future generations is not only a moral duty, it can also be good for business. Sustainable operations pay off in the long run, improving the company's image and making it more attractive to investors and consumers. Responsible companies can set an example for others and contribute to positive change in a business world. The corporate engagement at the local level and global impact are closely intertwined with the issue of responsibility for the future generations. Supporting local communities and addressing local environmental and social problems is key, and these actions directly affect the region's future. Companies can act most effectively and make a positive difference locally. For example, when a company works with local educational institutions to improve the quality of education, it has a long-term impact on the region's economic and social development. However, it is important to recognize that local problems and solutions are not isolated, but part of a global system. Climate change, the depletion of natural resources, and social inequalities are global challenges that require international cooperation. Local corporate engagement can only be effective if it aligns with global objectives and strategies. Moreover, companies' activities, regardless of location, have a global impact. A large company operations, supply chains, production processes, products, and services transcend local boundaries. Therefore, companies must consider their impact on future generations, not only from the local perspective, but also from a global perspective. The Zsolt and Attila also mentioned, and Fanny also mentioned, the corporate social responsibility, which includes sustainability principles, ethical behavior, and community support. The so-called CSR focuses on the impact on future generations, and companies' decisions and actions today have long-term consequences. Let's see some key aspects of CSR for future generations. First, the environment. The companies are responsible for conserving natural resources, reducing pollution, and fighting the climate change. Sustainable operations ensure the future generations can grow up in a livable environment. Another important is education or training. The companies can support educational institutions, set up scholarships, and help develop young people's skills. This will help future generations succeed the labor market. Health and well-being, another one, the health initiatives, the workers' real well-being, and products safely ensure that the future generations can lead healthy and balanced life. The social justice is also very important. The companies can fight discrimination and inequality, helping to create a more inclusive and fairer society for the future generations. And lastly, the ethical business practices, transparency, responsible decision-making, and ethical behavior ensure that companies set a positive example for future generations. The future-oriented approach to CSR is key to sustainable development and intergenerational justice. Companies must recognize that responsibility for the future generations is not a matter of choice, but a business and a moral imperative. Let's talk about the three pillars of sustainability. The three pillars of sustainability, as one of the presenters mentioned before, the environmental, social, and economic responsibility are integral how companies operate and their responsibility to the future generations. Firstly, the company's activities significantly impact the environment, so it is crucial to integrate environmental considerations into business processes. This includes pollution reduction, efficient resource management, the use of renewable energy sources, and the waste management. Green technologies, measuring environmental performance, and supporting green initiatives contribute to more sustainable future. The corporate social responsibility extends to employees, local communities, and society as a whole. Equal opportunities, respect for human rights, and safe and healthy working conditions are essential. In addition, the companies can play an active role in supporting communities, funding education and health initiatives, and promoting social dialogue. The sustainable economic activity is a basis for long-term stability and growth. Companies are responsible for engaging in ethical and transparent business practices, making responsible decisions, and creating long-term value. In addition to financial performance, they should consider wider economic impacts, such as creating jobs, stimulating innovation, and reducing economic inequalities. The three pillars are interlinked and interact. Companies can only be sustainable if they take responsibility in all three areas. For example, environmental measures often bring economic benefits, while social responsibility can improve a company's reputation and employee engagement. Integrating the three pillars of sustainability into corporate strategy and operations requires a long-term approach. Companies can only ensure the well-being of future generations if they balance environmental, social, and economic consideration in their decision-making and make a conscious effort to achieve sustainable development. Let's talk about the ethical perspectives a bit. There are important ethical and philosophical underpinnings behind corporate responsibility for future generations. These theories help us to understand why companies need to take a long-term view and consider the interest for future generations. The principle of responsibility developed by the renowned German philosopher Hans Jonas is one of the defining approaches in this field. According to Jonas, in an age of technological development and globalization, the impact of our actions has widened in the space and time, and the new ethics is needed. The responsibility principle states that we are responsible for those living in the present and future generations. According to Jonas, responsibility is an inherent power. The greater our impact on the world, the greater our responsibility. This is particularly true for companies whose activities have global impact on the environment and society. Conflicts and challenges can often arise between local and global corporate responsibility. In the case of multinational companies in particular, global business interests may conflict with the interest of well-being of local communities. Let us look at some examples of how the activities of some multinational companies can adversely affect local communities. For example, some multinational companies can cause significant environmental damage during the production, such as the air and water pollution, deforestation, and or the overexploitation of natural resources. Some multinational companies, especially in developing countries, may exploit weaker and cheaper labor laws. Low wages, poor working conditions, and the overtime can negatively affect the workers' quality of life and health. The entry of multinational companies into a local market often puts smaller local businesses in a difficult position, unable to compete with lower prices or a wider range of products. The multinational companies' activities can affect local communities' cultural identity and social structure. For example, a company's disregard for local traditions and values can lead to tensions and conflicts. And lastly, some multinational companies make decisions that significantly affect the life of local people without involving local communities. It is important to note that not all multinational companies hurt local communities, and many companies strive to operate responsibly and sustainably. The challenge is to find a balance between global business interests and the well-being of local communities. To prevent and manage conflicts, open and honest dialogue with local communities, respect for local interests and values, and prioritizing long-term sustainable development are essential. Multinational companies should integrate consideration of impact on local communities into their decision-making processes and actively seek to promote positive change. The innovation and the technology are essential how companies meet their responsibilities towards future generations. New technological solutions can help create more sustainable and ethical business practices and address environmental and social challenges. Let's look at some examples how new technologies can help companies to take responsibility. Renewable energy sources such as solar, wind, and hydropower allow companies to reduce their dependence on fossil fuels and their emissions. The concept of circular economy is based on the efficient use of resources and recycling. Technologies such as the 3D printing, robotics, and artificial intelligence can facilitate circular design and manufacturing. Digital technologies and data analytics are essential in optimizing business operations and achieving sustainability goals. New innovations in material science are driving the development of sustainable and degradable materials, using bio-based plastics, compostable packaging materials, and recycled raw materials can reduce the company's environmental footprints. And lastly, online collaboration platform and social media allow companies to connect with stakeholders and engage them in sustainability activities. These platforms facilitate knowledge sharing, dissemination of best practices, and collective action toward the common goals. The question is, sorry, a moment. What does the future hold? It is the question. The companies have a lot to learn from each other regarding responsibility and sustainability. Companies that successfully reconcile their local and global responsibilities can serve as models for others. Some key lessons learned. Cooperation and dialogue with local communities are essential. Companies must understand the local needs and priorities and integrate them into their decision-making processes. The global challenges such as the climate change and inequalities require concerted efforts. Companies must participate in international initiatives and build partnerships to achieve common goals. Innovation and technology are key to finding sustainable solutions. Companies must continuously improve their operations and products, taking advantage of the opportunities offered by the new technologies. Transparency and accountability are essential to building trust. Companies must communicate openly about their sustainability efforts and achievements and take responsibility for the impacts of their actions. A long-term perspective is very important. Responsibility towards the future generation must become integral to corporate strategies. Companies must consider the long-term impacts of their decisions and prioritize sustainability. Here are some practical steps. The sustainability goals must be embedded in the corporate mission and values. Management must clarify that the responsibility is not a choice, but a fundamental expectation. Decision-making processes should involve a wide range of stakeholders, including representatives of future generations. This will ensure that long-term considerations are given due weight. Performance assessment and incentive schemes should reflect sustainability objectives. Managers and employees should be evaluated and rewarded based on long-term results. Companies need continuous training on sustainability and responsibility. As mentioned before, sharing knowledge and best practices will help to reinforce the long-term approach. Corporate responsibility is vital for communities concerned and humanity as a whole. Creating a sustainable and just future is our shared responsibility, and the companies have a key role to play. By taking responsibility for the impact of their actions and focusing on the long term, companies can contribute to building a more livable and prosperous world for the future generations. Thank you very much for your attention.